Okay, so let's get started. Inside your kit, you will have a little bag of wool stuffing. So we'll use that a bit later once we're ready to stuff our little rabbits. So you have your bag. You'll have two little grey rabbits. You should have a little face drawn on one of them with like a little blue marker pen. If it's a bit faded, you could always just use a little bit of a pencil. This is a water soluble pen, so if you just dab a bit of water on it, the marker pen will disappear. So I like to use those pens for when I do sewing bits. But a little light pencil, not too dark, just so you have an idea of where the face is going to go. So you should have two of those. Some grey felt for the ears, and then you'll have some pink with some paper backing. So that's sticky back felt. So we'll use that to do the little nose, and also the pink for the ears later. So we've got some white, pink sticky back felt. We also have white sticky back felt for the little bunny tail. So we'll do that a bit later as well. And then you'll have string and a sheet of rainbows for your garland. So that's the activity at the end of the workshop. And then you'll have your sewing needle and bobbin with thread, and the little clip is to help you sew the little carrot sleeping bag as well. So we'll need those a little bit later. So that's what you should have in your box. We're going to start sewing the bunny, and then anything additional, like I said in the intro, I've got a little darning needle, or you could use tape as well for your garland later. So I've got those as well. And I've got scissors, paper scissors and fabric scissors. You don't need to have two different pairs of scissors. I've got loads of scissors. I do have like my paper crafting scissors, and then scissors that I only use for cutting fabric. So that's what we'll be using in the workshop today. So we're going to start by stitching the bunny. Let me just put this to the side. So we're going to start with the bunny. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to embroider the face, and then we're going to cut out the ears, and we're going to add the little pink bits. We're going to stitch around the bunny, and as we're stitching, we're going to attach the ears. Stitch all the way around, stuff the bunny, add a little tail, and then we'll go on to making the little sleeping bag for the bunny. So the first thing we're going to do, I'll just pop that off to the side, is get our little rabbits. And I've got my other little bits of felt here that I'll need later. So what you can do is just unravel the black thread from your bobbin. So I'm just going to unravel that. You can take all of it off. We don't need any black thread for the rest of the workshop. So we'll use what we have to sew the face. And I'll show you a little trick that I use in all my workshops for making a nice big knot at the end of my thread. So I've just got my needle and my thread. I'm just going to push that through. And then we always sew with a double thread. And this means you can concentrate on your stitches and you don't need to worry about your needle coming off the thread or having to hold on to any tail. So it just makes it a little bit easier. So I've got a double thread there. I get the two ends together, and then I'm just going to wrap them once around my index or Peter pointer finger, and then use my thumb to push it off, and it rolls up on itself. And when I pull, it makes a nice big knot. So I know that my thread isn't going to come through my felt there. So you can do that, and then you can trim it if you've got a little bit of a tail. But that's ready to go. I've got a double thread, and we're always going to start from the back. Okay, so we're all ready to get started with our sewing. Here we go then. We've got our bunnies with the face on the front. So I'm going to start always from the back. So we're going to come up from the back, just where the first eye is. So I've gone up from the back, and you're going to pull your thread all the way through so that your knot is flush against the back of your little rabbit. And then we're just going to sew down very close to the point that we came up. So you're making like a teeny tiny little stitch. You can already see my little eye starting there. So I've just gone down right next to where I've come up. So I've just made one little stitch. Now my tail is in the back, so I know that I've got to go up from the back. If your tail's in the back, you're going up from the back. So I'm going to do the same thing, very close to the previous stitch, because I want to do 2 stitches close to each other just to make that eye a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go up from the back again and down in the front. So my tail's in the front of my sewing, so I know I need to go down from the front. So wherever your tail is, that's where you're sewing. So I've gone down, which has made a really nice sized eye there. So I think that's good. 2 stitches should be enough because our thread is doubled. So it's already quite thick. So that's quite good. So once you've done 2 little stitches for your eye, we don't need to tie any knots or anything while we're sewing. We're just going to jump across. So I know my eye is about over there. And I just use that little blue marker as a guide. So I know where my eye is supposed to be. If you have any blue showing later, you can just use a little bit of water and it disappears with water. So don't worry about having the marker pen on your project. It's just a guide to help you stitch your little rabbit face. So I've gone up from the back, and so it looks like I have a line going across my sewing. Gone up from the back, and now I'm going to do the same as the left eye. I'm just going to go down right next to it, and I'm pulling my thread all the way down, so it looks like a little line there. And I'm going to do the same. My thread is in the back, so I know I need to go up from the back. I'm going to do 2 stitches right next to each other. So do your best to just get them close together. And I'm going to pull it all the way. And I'm going to go down right next to that stitch. And that should create 2 little eyes there. There we go. It's already looking really cute. So when you're hopping over to your second eye, you want to make sure you don't pull your thread too tight that it squishes up your face. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So when we have our 2 little eyes, we are going to start next on the little mouth, and we're going to use back stitch for this, and that just creates a straight, like solid line instead of like a dashed line that the running stitch would make. So this stitch is really good if you're drawing or doing like embroidering little designs on things. If you want it to look like a straight line, then you'll use your back stitch. So I'm going to go up from the back since my tail's in the back, and I want to come up just a little bit below the mouth. So the mouth looks like a little J and then another little hook, a bit like a fishing hook. So it's got 2 little hooks on each side. So I'm coming up a little bit below the start of the straight line there. So if you pull your thread too tight, your little face will squidge up. So keep your I keep wanting to call it a mouse because this is normally the shape we use for the mouse class. Our little bunnies, keep them nice and flat. And I'm just going to stitch back just a little bit to create the first stitch. So just sewn back. And then what creates the back stitch is the next one. You go a little bit ahead of your previous stitch, and you sew back to join up your line. So ideally you're going down in the same hole that your other stitch came up at, but just do your best to make your stitches as close together as possible, but it's not a big deal if you have a little gap between your stitches. So we're just doing nice tiny stitches. This one will be about 4 stitches to go around the J. You don't have to follow the little blue marker lines exactly. If I've drawn it a little bit too small, just do you can like freestyle it a little bit. So the next one, I'm just going to go a little bit up because I want to have a nice smiling bunny. So I'm just going to go up from the back and down. There we go. And I've got my little J for my bunny. So once we've done the first side of our little rabbit face, I'm going to jump over and do the second half of the mouth. So it's just in the same way, we just jump across and we're going to sew back to this little V and then do another, I think I'll just do 2 stitches, 2 or 3 here. And then I'll show you how to do the whiskers. So again, my tail's in the back, so I'm going to go up from the back. And if you're turning your project over and thinking, oh gosh, what a mess, you don't have to worry. You won't see the back, so it doesn't matter at all what the back looks like. We're just going to stitch a little bit of the mouth there. So I think I'm just going to do 2 stitches on this side. It's got a small little face. And I'm just sewing back to join up my line. So I've got my 2 little bits of the mouth there ready for the whiskers. So just give you a minute in case you're still sewing your mouth. The whiskers are just one big straight stitch across the face. So it's not multiple stitches. We're just going to do one big long stitch. So it's quite easy. So if you're ready for the whiskers, I'll show you how to do those now. If not, just keep going with your mouth and I'll make sure we're all at the same spot when we finish with the black thread. So just going to jump up about where I haven't given you any markers, but you can just kind of guess. Our nose will be about here. So we're just going to come up close to where our nose will be. And I'm just sewing 1 stitch. Nice big long one across, and just leave a little bit of gap from the edge because we don't want to go too close to the edge. There we go. And for the second one, I just come up next to it a little bit ahead, and I'm going to sew back to the other one. And just try to keep your felt nice and flat so it doesn't bunch up like this. So just keep it nice and flat. And then same, I'm not going to tie any knots or anything till we're done with the black thread. I'm just going to jump over again and do 2 whiskers on the other side. Oops, other side. So just always checking to make sure my felt is nice and flat. 2 over here. Now I've got my tail in the back, so I know I need to go up from the back. If you happen to wrap your thread around the side of your felt by accident, you can usually pull it out quite easily. So if you happen to go around the wrong way, just pull your felt and just line up your needle straight, and you can, oh yeah, I can, and you can usually pull out your stitch in case you make a mistake or you accidentally wrap it around the edge. So that's one, yeah. So there's a little trick. The felt is really forgiving. So if you happen to do, yeah, the little wrap around, I see that quite often where the tail will be in the front and then the kids will come up from the back and then it'll accidentally be wrapped around. So you can just pull it out again and then keep going. Same if you get a tangle in your thread. I always just say just pull it back to the back and then just tie a knot and keep going. So I'm going to do my little whisker here. And then for the 4th whisker, it's the same. And then I'll just do that and then make sure we're all at the same place together. So And then we just sew back to here. There we go. So that's the little rabbit face finished. The good thing about using a double thread is that it's really easy to tie it off in the back. So I'll show you, there's a couple ways to do it. So I'll show you one way this time, and then I'll show you another way the next time. So that's how we're doing. Good. We've got the first step of our bunny done. Cannot wait to see them all done and all snug in their little beds later. There we go. Cool. So when we've got 2 eyes, a little mouth, 4 little whiskers, a little bit of a mess on the back, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So if you are ready to tie your thread off, I'll show you the easy way to do it first. So you can just cut your thread not too close to your felt. You need a little bit of a tail. We're actually done with the black, so you can take that off your needle and put it to the side. I don't have too much left, but I tend to keep these little bits in my sewing box for when I just need a little bit of thread. So depending how much you have left, you can keep it for later or just put it off to the side. So I've got my 2 little ends, and you can just tie a double knot. So just like your shoelaces for your trainers, left over right, and it goes under, and we'll just do that 2 times. So left over right, and then that right tail just goes under and pull that. So there's no fancy knot or anything, just a double knot. And then you can cut that. Leave a little bit of a tail in case your knot comes loose. Don't cut it all the way down to the knot. And then just put your little thread bits to the side. But that's the easy way. If you do any sewing with a double thread, with thread that's a little bit thicker, that's a really easy way to finish off your sewing on the back.